104 civilians killed trying to access food aid trucks in Gaza, Palestinian Health Ministry says. Bro, can I ask this question? I'm going to be very honest here, brutally and painfully honest. Like, what am I supposed to expect? When I read something, when I read an article, a title like this, and it's like Israel-Gaza war, first of all, is it a war against Gaza? Fine. At least they're no longer saying it's not Israel-Hamas war, so that's good. Okay? That's good. It's not a war. It's an ethnic cleansing campaign, but fine. At least we've moved past it, right? More than 100 reported killed in crowd near Gaza aid convoy. So were they actually trying to access food and humanitarian aid? And also, what does this mean, reported killed? Did a building collapse on them? At least they're saying reported killed and not simply saying were died. You know what I mean? That's good. That's a big step. Hamas-run health ministry says, obviously this is to say, like, you know, don't believe your things that you've heard. You got replied by this freak today, Brianna Wu. Yeah, I said Biden won Michigan in 2020 by 150K, 100K plus voters uncommitted in the Dem primary. 77% of Dems want a ceasefire in Gaza. Are people just unaware Biden has dedicated his entire State Department to pursuing a ceasefire for many months? What do you think our Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has been doing with these repeated trips to the Middle East pretending to work? It's already our policy. The rub of all this is how you define ceasefire. Do the hostages come home? Is Hamas left in charge? Who's the new government of Gaza? A lot of the Free Palestine types are not actually looking for a cessation of fighting. That's cool. Anyway, so you have the BBC angle here, right? Fuck, I'm already covering the news. God damn it. Hold on. And then there's an even grosser way to cover the 100 people being murdered. Okay? Which I will show you in a second. Hold on. Let me write. As Gaza's death toll passes 30K, IDF opens fire on looking crowd desperate for aid, killing 100 plus. God, Brianna Wu is so stupid. Like, I don't know anything about her other than like this stuff. This is the only thing I've ever heard of her, and I think she was in like a group chat or something and was saying like horrible shit. But I feel like that's normal. If you're like an online brain broken person, you're gonna be in some group chat saying awful shit. But honestly, like, but she's doing the same farmer as all the other weirdos. Yeah, but it's so stupid. And I feel like the dumber people get about this shit, the more she gains prominence. And I feel like it's not even her gaining prominence, it's more so like people getting dumber and dumber on this Israel stuff. So I don't understand it. P. Diddler, Meek Mill, SCOTUS to hear Trump immunity. Trump ex Biden border collab. No surge pricing on Wendy's. As Gaza death toll passes 30K, IDF opens fire on crowd desperate for aid, killing 100 plus. Get in now. How to prevent Hamas becoming like the Taliban after liberation of the people. They went from fighting against the invasion of the USSR to a fundamentalist government. Wait, what do you mean? They were always fundamentalist. I mean, I don't think you understand the dynamic there. And also, I like that we're talking about like what happens when the Palestinians are liberated. Like, okay. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, okay? That's the second time you have answered that exact question. I've probably said the exact same thing both times. Dude. Okay. It's Media Literacy Hour with HasanAbi Piker. Let's say a thing happens in the world. Okay, here, let me blast off real quick and then we're going to get right into this fucking story. Okay. Before we get to the P. Diddler, Meek Mill, SCOTUS to hear Trump immunity, all that stuff, I'm going to start off with the Israeli occupying force opening fire on Palestinians that were desperately trying to get aid. Okay. That's what we're going to start off with, first and foremost. So there's many different ways that you can cover a story. One way to do it, as I just described, is one, saying Israel-Gaza war. It's not a war, it's an ethnic cleansing campaign. However, this is simply better than the previous formation of this kind of thing, which would say Israel-Hamas war, which definitely is not the truth, right? More than 100 people reported killed. Once again, reported killed. So at least they're not saying more than 100 people found dead. Okay. They're saying reported killed in crowd near Gaza aid convoy. So they do mention the Gaza aid convoy, right? That's an improvement as well. But they're saying it's in a crowd near the Gaza aid convoy, not mentioning that it's actually the crowd trying to receive aid, desperate for humanitarian aid in an ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign. And then, of course, the last one is my favorite, the excellent chef's kiss. Hamas-run health ministry says that is, of course, to cast doubt on the numbers, even though every single person that works in the intelligence community, in the respective state departments of each individual state, every single person that works in the Israeli side, every single person that works at an NGO, and every single person that works at the BBC that has been covering this for years, if they know anything about anything, knows without a doubt, without a fucking doubt, that the Hamas-run health ministry numbers have always been the gold standard of figuring out the death toll. And the highest likelihood is that those numbers currently are actually at undercount, because there's like around 10,000 people that we know of that are most likely still under the rubble. So just saying, this is the greatest version that you are going to get from Western media, because then you have other ones where it says at least 100 killed and 700 injured in chaotic incident where IDF opened fire as people waited for food in Gaza. So strange it is hard to confirm information in Gaza. I wonder why that is. Yes, that's a great question. It is because there's an ethnic cleansing campaign going on. Okay, an ethnic cleansing campaign that targets children, targets women, civilian men, the elderly. That is why it's very difficult. Not shocking that they shot at a fucking crowd of people that are trying to desperately get food. Here's what Itamar Ben-Gvir had to say about this. Total support must be given to our heroic fighters operating in Gaza who acted excellently against the Gazan mob that tried to harm them. Today, it was proven that the transfer of humanitarian aid to Gaza is not only madness while our abductees are being held in the Strip under substandard conditions, but also endangers the IDF soldiers. This is another clear reason why we must stop transferring this aid, which is in fact to harm the IDF soldiers and oxygen to Hamas. That's awesome. The best backup that can be given our fighters is to throw you out of power with a missile. Anyway. This is another good one. Many were killed and injured after Israeli forces opened fire near an aid convoy. Starkly different accounts of what happened were offered. Bro, you are a fucking news publication. Your job, it's like journalism 101. Your job is not to go, some people are saying it's raining outside. Other people are saying it's sunny outside. Open the fucking window, crack it open, and put your fucking hand out to see if it's raining or if it's fucking sunny. What do you mean? This is literally like, this is not news. You are not reporting on the news. Breaking news. Things are happening. We don't know what. Who could tell? I don't know. Probably Israel's in the right. Okay, thanks. I feel very informed by this. This is the fucking gray lady. This is the paper of record, dog. What the hell is going on? Many were killed and injured after Israeli forces opened fire near an aid convoy. Starkly different accounts. Like, some things happen to some people. We don't know anything. This is giving up, dude. This is literally like, bro, this is me during COVID when I just stopped working out. I just gave up. Okay. I was like, fuck it. I'm not moving. I'm not moving at all. This is, you've directly said now as the most important institution in the field of journalism in the United States of America, you said, I'm giving up. What the fuck? I see your New York Times push notification and I raise you this. Jason Hickel. Dude, when you wanted to send this, when you first sent this link to me, I thought you were like sending me a Jackson Hinkledink link. And I was like, I don't want to. Biden says Gaza food aid related deaths complicate ceasefire talks. Food aid related deaths? What does this mean? What is he talking about? Food aid related deaths? What is, like, did they get poisoned? Did the food aid collapse on top of the people? Like, what is? Okay, let's hear another one. Heated exchange. State Department spokesperson Matt Miller unable to condemn Israel's killing, blames Hamas. Why is it so difficult for this government to say we condemn the killing of Palestinian women and children? Why don't you say the word condemn? We don't want to see anyone die. Hamas launched this war in the first place. Oh my God! Yet I haven't heard a word condemn. This war began. Began way before October 7th.
You don't have any doubt that only one side did the shooting and the killing and the shelling and so on of these people, correct?
Said, I have seen reports No,
you haven't. No, you haven't. You have not seen any reports. Or you have, and you're lying. You have seen the report. You're just fucking lying. Your job is to lie. Oh my God. Oh, I saw that. Actually, guys, I saw that it was actually the Palestinian people themselves that were killing themselves. They found guns and they started shooting themselves.
I've seen different reports with respect to that very question.
Right.
We don't know, as I said earlier, the ground truth of what happened, which is why we think it's appropriate that investigation be conducted.
So you think that there were...
Bro, they say this every time, okay? They say this every fucking time. And then they just block and push and wait until Israel does another unimaginably cruel thing. And then they push it down the line again and again and again and again. It's unimaginable. Anyway, more than 110 Palestinians are reported to have been killed while trying to get desperately needed aid in North Gaza. Crowds of waiting civilians descended on a convoy of lorries after it passed through an Israeli military checkpoint on the coastal road west of Gaza City. Israelis military said troops fired at some of those people they thought were a threat. In the ensuing chaos, the lorries attempted to move forward. A Palestinian witness told the BBC that most of those who died were run over. At least 112 people were killed and 760 others injured in the incident, the spokesman of Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry, Ashraf al-Qudra, said in a statement on Thursday afternoon. Dramatic aerial footage released by the Israeli military showed thousands of people on and around the lorries, while graphic videos of the aftermath posted on social media showed some of the dead loaded onto emptied aid lorries and a donkey cart. Why are they so desperate for aid? Why has the aid actually trickled in such slow numbers? I know people that are fucking out there right now. I see them talking about it in Jordan specifically, talking about how impossible it is and how much aid is being currently held up in points of entry. Why? It's not like the entire world isn't trying to desperately bring help into Gaza. They certainly are. Kids are eating fucking animal feed and grass, especially in northern Gaza. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry blamed Israel for what it called a massacre, while U.S. President Joe Biden expressed concern that it would complicate efforts by the U.S. and other mediators to broker a temporary ceasefire in the war between Hamas and Israel. I'll tell you this much, and I mean this with all sincerity. I think the amount of Hamas-run health ministry has actually unironically caused more people in the Western world to be like, yeah, okay, I'm with those guys, actually. Like, originally, when it started, there was obviously the bad guys in the eyes of the Western world and the way that they received it were Hamas. They went in and they did unspeakable things, and a lot of people were geared up with the atrocity propaganda on top of the real atrocities that had occurred. So they were like, oh my God, of course I condemn Hamas. This is devastating. This is devastating. But after 5 months, constantly fucking positioning Hamas against the IDF has unironically normalized Hamas as a legitimate entity. Because guess what? For the past 5 months, Hamas has been defending the Palestinian population against the Israeli military's brutal genocidal bombing campaign. So of course people are going to see that. And with the media constantly being like, Hamas run health ministry, Hamas said this, Hamas said that. Of course people are going to inevitably be like, all right, you know what? Lesser evil. Because it is. Because it fucking is. I will stand on that. I will stand on this business. Hamas, between Hamas and Israel, Hamas is the lesser evil of the two. Both in the amount of civilians that they deliberately targeted and killed, okay, in comparison to the amount of actual soldiers that they killed. That's it. The numbers are undeniable, okay? That is before we talk about like the destruction of you know, civil society. That's it. You consistently have such a high view of the normie brain. The more you learn every day actually separates you more and more from the average person. I think that normal human beings, if given all of the facts, will most likely go along with their morality and will inevitably be able to overcome their previous social conditioning. People will get real mad at you for that take. For what take? That Hamas is the lesser evil between Hamas and IDF? I am ready to stand on that take all day, every day. I've been saying that. I've been saying that because it's fucking true. It's literally true. People are actually insane for acting like that is not the case. It is objectively the case. They have killed, one, by totality, significantly fewer civilians, and per capita, they've killed significantly fewer civilians in comparison to enemy combatants. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. And that is before we talk about like the fucking obvious like death and destruction of like normal civil life. Shutting off food, shutting off aid, shutting off electricity. Hamas does not have the capacity to do these things to Israel in the same way that Israel does, because Israel is the occupier. Israel is, and this is not just like me being fucking woke and doing like entry-level theory. I love bros defending rapists. I never defended Israel. I never defended Israel. That's really fucked up that you said that. Number one. Dude, this is how laughable the fucking pro-Israel propaganda is. Where they're just keep trying to fucking revamp the atrocity, the atrocity porn over and over again. It's so funny. I have never been more vindicated on any issue more than my consistent takes on fucking Israel and Palestine. And the only reason for why is because, like, I've seen it, I've covered it for 10 fucking years. That's it. Somebody hasn't heard the news about the New York Times story? Yeah. I missed a bit where Hamas were parading the underwear of the women they had killed. Oh yeah, that's right. You missed that bit because Israel's been doing that. That's a good one. You're right. True. Forgot about that one. Oh yeah, no, we're going to talk about the story behind the New York Times October 7 expose, the most famous mass atrocity rape on October 7 article, and who wrote the article and how that article was ever even fucking brought up. And the New York Times itself recognized very quickly after they fucking blasted it into the ether that it did not meet the muster of like a genuine piece of journalism. And there was a lot of internal battles inside of the New York Times for even bringing that fucking article up. The Daily had to delete their fucking entire episode. It should call into question everything you fucking know about the way that these guys operate. Yeah. The New York Times is also launching a leak investigation over this. The New York Times is conducting a leak investigation, a rare move of the paper following the Intercept's report on a yet-to-air episode of The Daily addressing claims of sexual violence committed by Hamas on October 7th. That's so funny that the entire fucking media is like running defense for the New York Times here when they fucked up in a ginormous way. That's the more interesting part, is that the New York Times is doing a leak investigation, not the fact that they literally... Oh, okay. Yeah. Glad to see the New York Times is taking internal and external criticisms of it covered seriously. It's important that any organization to be able to self-reflect, learn from mistakes, and improve. Oh, wait, this is what they're doing instead. Launching a leak investigation. This is Trumpian shit. I'm thankful for the New York Times for standing behind the important stories we've published. The Times didn't just stand behind me, but also many of the women whose stories needed to be told. The recent attack against me will not deter me from continuing my work. Telling the truth and giving voice to women in Israel and worldwide. I understand why people who do not know me were offended by the inadvertent like. I pressed on 10-7 and I apologize for that. Anyway. Absolute demon shit. We're going to get to that in a second. Let's continue with the let's continue with the other manufacturing consent story that we were talking about. Yeah, I mean, Itamar Ben-Gvir has always been embracing that he's a villain. Themisius, we already talked about this. He very openly was like, no more aid. They've been saying that. There's plenty of people that are saying that. Anyway, but we'll get to the New York Times leak and the Intercept's brilliant reporting on the matter. But before we get to that, let's get back to the story at hand. The incident happened hours before the health ministry announced that more than 30,000 people, including 21,000 women and children, had been confirmed killed in Gaza since the start of the conflict. 21,000 women and children have been killed. 30,000 total have been killed. Okay? There is no world in which you can engage in lesser evil and act like Israel is actually the good guys here. Israel were the bad guys on October 6. Israel were the bad guys on October 8. Israel has been the bad guy for 75 fucking years. If you want like the Marvel Cinematic Universe style good bad dynamics here, this is one of the very few instances where you can actually do that because the morality is clear. It's like Ukraine and Russia, right? Russia, bad guys for fucking invading Ukraine. That's it. That's it. Don't do that. Israel, bad guys for being an apartheid state. Don't do that. You can fucking desperately cling on to the preconceived notions that people may have about Hamas and they're scary and they're Muslim and they're terrorists and you know all of this other stuff that happened. Oh my God. But it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Some 7,000 others have been reported as missing. 70,450 have been treated for injuries over the past 4 months, according to the ministry. This is deeply shocking. But Azov, that's so funny that you say Azov. I don't know if you're like pushing Z or if you're like trying to make fun of me as a NATO defender or something. But I've always maintained the position that, like, while Azov is a nationalist battalion, this does not justify Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I've never, ever fucking said that it was valid. This is deeply shocking because if you add the number of people who have been injured and the number of people who are missing, you have more than 100,000 people, which represents 5% of the population. Philip Lazzarini, the head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, told the BBC. The UN is also warning of a looming famine in the north of the territory, where an estimated 300,000 people are living with little food or clean water. Rory V, thank you for the 50 gifted subs. I'm going to run the 3-minute ad break right now as well at the top of the hour, and then we're going to move on. I'm not going. We're going to continue with the story. I'm not doing like a segue. People need to drop decorum when talking about Israeli atrocities because IOF sympathizers get extremely accusational, emotional, and straight up rabid when you mention it. We shouldn't honor Zionists with candor in political speech because it's the same as legitimizing Nazis. At this point, if you're at a table with one Zionist and 10 other people, you are at a table with 11 Zionists. There's a difference. There's certainly a difference because of the varying degrees of Zionism and what people understand and it being like a foreign nation. The Israeli military launched a large-scale, but it is definitely genocide. It is genocide. As is 100% true. It's genocide. Through and through. That's it. Israel is engaging in genocidal actions, and America is funding and facilitating that genocide, providing political cover for said genocide, giving weapons to Israel to continue conducting said genocide. It's not even this is not like anyone who tries to debate you on this point is just an unserious person who is a cruel and heartless individual in general. There is no way that you can look at the situation and go, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of genocide is fine. It's valid. I mean, if you tell them simple facts, they push back and they're a toast. Nazi apologists are complicit in genocide. Yes. Anyway, the Israeli military launched a large-scale air and ground campaign to destroy Hamas, which is prescribed as a terrorist organization by Israel, the UK, and others, after its gunmen killed about 1,200 people in southern Israel on October 7 and took 253 people back to Gaza as hostages. Thursday's incidents took place shortly after 2 GMT past an Israeli military checkpoint on Rashid Street, which runs along the Mediterranean coast. Palestinian sources gave the location as the Nabulsi roundabout on the southwestern edge of Gaza City. Now, if you've seen like convoys such as this one, aid convoys in the past, there's always chaos in the delivery, and that chaos is a consequence of, okay, excuse me, I'm sorry that I fucking burped. Okay, suck my dick. It happened on accident. Jesus Christ, I'm a human being. I'm a human being who's doing the hardest job on the planet, as always, you know? I strongly disagree. Given how the Palestinians are portrayed, so many automatically side with Israel, succumbing to media propaganda. It is not granted that people see this clearly. If what you are saying was correct, then the majority of the American population would not be demanding a ceasefire. I think, and with all sincerity, I think there's a lot more Americans that are like, enough is enough, fucking dial it back. What the hell is going on? especially in comparison to like where such a military campaign or how such a military campaign would have been received 10 years ago. Hasan, there are no major protests in America. I don't think average people care about it all that much. First of all, you're wrong. There have been major protests in America endlessly for the past 5 months without fatigue in general. The difference is media never covers it on purpose. And also, we just covered a massive protest vote campaign where 100,000 plus individuals in the state of Michigan went and voted uncommitted. If you think that the protests have not been ongoing, you're basically telling on yourself.
Other people shooting?
Saeed, I said I have seen reports that other people were shooting. I don't know the veracity of any of those reports, which is why we're seeking more information.
And you expect to get any results from these investigations, these reports? Will you come back to us next week and tell us this is?
I can't promise you next week because I don't know how long an investigation will take. But hold on. Certainly, when an investigation is completed and we're briefed on that investigation, I'm happy to come brief you on that.
On the principle of it, why is it so difficult for this government to say we condemn the killing of children, Palestinian women and children? Why can't you say the word condemn?
We do. Saeed, if you listen to what I said a moment ago,
hold
on. Saeed, please don't interrupt me.
Yeah.
I said far too many Palestinians have died. Thousands of Palestinian children have died, and it is a tragedy when one of them dies. Of course, we don't want to see a single child die. We don't want to see anyone die as a result.
He's like, in the famously, listen, 1,000 Palestinians die. It's a statistic. One Palestinian dies is a tragedy. Actually, as a matter of fact, it's fine. It's always a statistic. I don't really care.
Result of this conflict, which is why we have been working to bring this conflict to a close as soon as possible. But whenever you ask me these questions, I do think you continue to kind of just elide over the fact that
it's like, dude. Listen, the final solution was not a conflict, okay? It was ethnic cleansing. Like, I don't understand. Dude, you can say anything's a conflict, okay? Murat, buying new things to fill my fucking garage is a conflict, okay? It's a very broad spectrum of events that you can consider to be a fucking conflict. You're a libtard. I am not a libtard, I don't think. What do you think of XG? Why are you such a liberal? Don't ban this guy. He's a pet. New pet. My body and I had a conflict this morning on the toilet. Yeah, it could be anything and everything. That's why words matter. That's why we have different words. That's why we use different words specifically to talk about different things.
Hamas bears a great deal of responsibility for putting those children in harm's way. Remember, it was Hamas that launched this war in the first place with an attack on Israel that killed men, women, and children, and that Hamas that hid and continues to hide behind children as human shields. So yes, we do not want to see any child die. We don't want to see any innocent civilian die, which is why we are working so hard to try to achieve a temporary ceasefire that would alleviate their suffering.
Yet I have not heard the word condemn. I mean, this war began way before October 7. I mean, in fact, the reason that this administration was so strong on, pursuing a Middle East peace and so on, because the war has been going on for decades before and so on. We heard this administration when they came into office talking about reopening the consulate, talking about reopening the PLO office here, talking about restarting and reigniting peace talks and so on, re-aiding UNRWA and so on, simply because that war has been going on for a very long time. Because Gaza was under siege for a very, very long time.
Saeed, nothing that happened before October 7th justifies what Hamas did on that day. And it is what Hamas did on that day that led to the outbreak of this war and led to the suffering of so many innocent Palestinians. And I just feel it's important to correct that fact.
That's fine. I mean, you guys said this many times before, but in fact, Israel has been waging war on Gaza for a very, very long time. Let me ask you on the aid issue, on the trucks and the trailers and so on. Is there anyone other than Israel that is holding the aid from going in?
It is not a question of aid going in. That's not the problem right now, Saeed. The problem is that when aid gets in, there's a distribution problem inside Gaza right now because there are police officers, some of whom are members of Hamas, who have been providing the security for those for that distribution inside Gaza. And what Israel says is that they have a legitimate right to go after members of Hamas. So we would obviously prefer to see members of a security force inside Gaza who are not Hamas members, but that's not where we are today. So it is a situation that we continue to try to work through.
So this is really the classic catch-22 kind of situation because Hamas governed Gaza for a very long time. All the police, all the many of the security forces, and so on. Unless you supply Gaza with police and other staff people, whatever, who are from Egypt, from anywhere, to distribute these things, it's going to be the same people to distribute it.
As I said, it is
so this is really, you're saying, okay, you can't, it's a catch-22 situation.
I don't think you're listening to what I said. What I said is we believe the way to ultimately solve this problem is to try to get a temporary ceasefire that would...
Brother, listen to me. Listen to me. He is Hamas, okay? Sometimes even Matt Miller himself is Hamas. That's how it works. This is the last part.
And the Hamas-run eyewitnesses and the Hamas-run Palestinian Ministry of Health say that more than 100 people were killed in what is being described as a chaotic incident as IDF soldiers opened fire as people were trying to get food from aid trucks. CNN's Jeremy Diamond is gathering new details. He's been picking up some new reporting. Jeremy, bring us up to speed here.
Well, first of all, Kate, I think it's important to note that the aid situation, the humanitarian situation in northern Gaza is just so desperate. And that seems to be part of what led to this scene. Hundreds, if not thousands of people surrounding some of these aid trucks that were able to enter northern Gaza. Some of the very few aid trucks that have actually been able to make it in there. And you can see in this video by the from the Israeli military, the crowds of people around these trucks. But what appears to have happened is that the Israeli military opened fire on some of these people who were surrounding these trucks. An Israeli military official telling us that the crowd approached the forces in a manner that posed a threat to the troops, and they say that those troops then responded with live fire. Now, eyewitnesses on the scene have told us that Israeli tanks as well as drones opened fire on this crowd, and that following that, there was a chaotic scene. Some of the drivers of these aid trucks apparently tried to get away amid this gunfire and killed several additional people. We are told that 104 people were killed in this incident, 760 people.
Just a tiny correction. It wasn't taken down and they're standing by it. Yeah, we'll cover it. Don't worry.
Injured, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health. It's not clear yet how many of those were killed by Israeli gunfire versus by these trucks and the ensuing chaos. But our eyewitnesses on the ground indicate that it was the Israeli gunfire that prompted some of those trucks to flee the scene and in the process run over some of these individuals. But we are still working to gather additional details. The Israeli military says for its part that the incident is under review, and they are also saying in a statement that Gazan residents surrounded the trucks, looted the supplies being delivered, and that
I know I've come on here and spoken about how my parents are insane Zionists, but I think the chaotic incident may have done it for my father. I let him know about it this morning, and he said, that's fucked up, Jesus Christ. There has been a both sides spin on every massacre, but this is different as there really isn't defending this. I think that's partially because like you may have been able to deliver the information accurately before they were able to get like a manufactured narrative. I mean, his opinion might change afterwards, inevitably. Because like, see, they're saying like they looted the supplies and stuff like that. These are people who are trying to survive, right? There is no, like, this is so gruesome to extend any kind of coverage utilizing the terms such as looting. They're surviving. They are trying to survive. There is a literal genocide going on, and they are trying to survive. Note to CNN, a chaotic incident is college kids storming a basketball court, not a massacre at a food line. Yeah, it's just, but I do see it. I think people, I guess it's like people can contextualize this, like they can conceptualize it, and the closer you can see yourself or an American in the shoes of a Palestinian, the more people will come to terms with it, if that makes sense. What I mean by this is, like, remember, I talk about the West Bank quite a bit. Because, like, the West Bank is infinitely easier to understand. From a Western sensibility perspective than Gaza. Entire city blocks wiped out by aerial bombing campaigns is something that Americans are used to seeing on television. They have no way of, like, conceptualizing that. We've never had that here, right? But the West Bank is individualized, personal acts of violence, like the Klan basically running around and killing black people. But this time, the entirety of the military force is backing the Klan, and it's the Israeli settlers that are, like, religious fundamentalists that are doing that to the Palestinian farmers, right? And I think this is it's close to like Hurricane Katrina, like a chaotic situation in the aftermath of a natural disaster, even though it is not a natural disaster at all. Obviously, it is a disaster of Israel's doing. But I think the way that the Western world sees it, the way that, like, Americans see it, this is, I mean, it's just the worst thing you can fucking do. You're shooting at people who are desperately trying to survive. You're shooting at women and children that are trying to grab any food that they can.